The summer heat hung heavy over Citizens Bank Park as 23-year-old Mick Abel adjusted his Philadelphia Phillies cap for what felt like the 100th time that evening. His hands trembled slightly as he gripped the baseball, the leather warm against his palm. After years of grinding through the minor leagues, sleeping in cramped apartments and eating gas station sandwiches, this was it. His major league debut was just hours away. Abel had been dreaming of this moment since he was 8 years old, throwing fastballs against the wooden fence behind his childhood home in Oregon. His father had built a makeshift strike zone using old tires, and young Mick would spend countless hours perfecting his delivery. The neighbors complained about the constant thudding sound, but his parents knew they were witnessing something special. Even then, Mick possessed an unusual combination of control and power that set him apart from other kids his age. The journey to this night had been anything but smooth. Abel was drafted by the Phillies in the first round of the 2020 MLB draft, but the pandemic had disrupted everything. Minor league seasons were canceled, development programs were put on hold, and young prospects like Mick found themselves in limbo. He spent months training alone, throwing to his father in empty parks and running sprints on deserted high school tracks. The uncertainty ate at him, but his determination never wavered. When baseball finally resumed, Abel attacked his development with renewed vigor. He dominated in single-A ball, earning a quick promotion to double-A reading. His fastball consistently hit the mid-90s, but it was his devastating changeup that really caught scouts' attention. Opposing batters would swing helplessly at pitches that seemed to disappear mid-flight. His confidence grew with each successful outing, and whispers began circulating throughout the organization about the young right-hander's potential. The call-up came unexpectedly on a Tuesday morning in late August. Abel was eating breakfast in his modest apartment in Reading when his phone rang. It was the pitching coach, his voice barely containing excitement. The Phillies needed a spot starter for the weekend series against the Braves, and management had decided Abel was ready. The conversation lasted less than 2 minutes, but it changed everything. Within hours, he was packing his few belongings and driving toward Philadelphia, his heart racing with anticipation and terror. As Abel walked through the clubhouse that first day, veteran players nodded respectfully. They remembered their own debuts, the mixture of excitement and fear that came with stepping onto baseball's biggest stage. Bryce Harper, the team's superstar outfielder, pulled the young pitcher aside for a brief conversation. He reminded Abel that he belonged here, that the organization wouldn't have called him up if they didn't believe in his abilities. Those words meant everything to a kid who had spent years doubting whether this day would ever come. The media attention was overwhelming. Reporters wanted to know about his childhood, his development, his expectations for the debut. Abel tried to stay focused on baseball, but the constant questions and camera flashes were unlike anything he had experienced. His parents drove down from Oregon, their first time seeing their son pitch in a major league uniform. The pressure was building, but so was his excitement. During his final practice session before the debut, Abel felt something click. His pitches had extra zip, his command was razor sharp, and his confidence was soaring. The coaching staff exchanged knowing glances as they watched him work. This kid was ready. The years of development, the setbacks, the long bus rides through minor league towns, it had all led to this moment. As the sun began to set over Philadelphia, Abel sat quietly in the clubhouse, visualizing his first major league pitch. He thought about all the people who had helped him reach this point. His parents, his high school coach, the countless minor league instructors who had refined his mechanics. But mostly he thought about that 8-year-old kid throwing against a fence in Oregon, dreaming of nights exactly like this one. The dream was about to become reality, and nothing would ever be the same. The Atlanta Braves arrived in Philadelphia with their own storylines and expectations, but none of their players could have predicted the drama that would unfold during the weekend series. Among their traveling roster was a utility infielder named Marcus Thompson, a 26-year-old journeyman who had bounced between the majors and minors for 3 seasons. Thompson wasn't a household name, but he possessed something that made coaches take notice, an uncanny ability to rise to the occasion when games mattered most. Thompson's path to professional baseball had been unconventional. Unlike many of his teammates who were drafted straight out of high school or college, he had spent 2 years working construction after graduation, saving money to attend a junior college where he could continue playing. His father had been skeptical about his baseball dreams, urging him to focus on building a stable career with his hands. But Marcus knew he had unfinished business on the diamond. The construction work had actually helped his baseball career in unexpected ways. Swinging a sledgehammer for 8 hours a day had developed incredible strength in his forearms and core. When he finally returned to organized baseball at the junior college level, his power numbers jumped dramatically. College scouts began showing up to games intrigued by this older player who seemed to hit everything hard. After a standout season at junior college, Thompson transferred to a Division II university where he continued to excel. His batting average hovered around .400, and he drove in over 60 runs in his final college season. The Braves selected him in the 8th round of the draft. Impressed by his work ethic and clutch-hitting ability, he signed for a modest bonus and immediately reported to rookie ball, eager to begin his professional journey. The minor leagues had been a grind for Thompson, just as they were for every player trying to reach the majors. He spent 3 seasons bouncing between different levels, constantly adjusting to new coaching styles and higher levels of competition. His versatility became his greatest asset. He could play second base, third base, or shortstop with equal competence. Managers loved having him on their roster because they knew he could fill multiple roles. Thompson's first major league call-up had come the previous September, during roster expansion. He played sparingly, appearing in just 7 games and collecting 3 hits. The brief taste of the big leagues only intensified his hunger to return. He spent the entire offseason working with a private hitting instructor, refining his approach against major league caliber pitching. His goal was simple. When he got his next opportunity, he wanted to make the most of it. This series against the Phillies represented exactly the kind of opportunity Thompson had been preparing for. The Braves were locked in a tight division race, and every game carried playoff implications. With their regular second baseman nursing a minor injury, Thompson found himself in the starting lineup for all 3 games of the series. He had studied video of Phillies pitching all week, paying particular attention to their young prospects who might be called upon in crucial situations. When news broke that a rookie named Mick Abel would be making his debut in the series opener, Thompson immediately began researching his new opponent. He watched footage from Abel's minor league appearances, noting the movement on his changeup and the location of his fastball. Thompson had built his career on preparation and attention to detail. He wasn't about to let a lack of information put him at a disadvantage. The night before the series began, Thompson called his father from his hotel room in downtown Philadelphia. The conversation was brief but meaningful. His father, who had initially doubted his baseball dreams, now called before every series to offer encouragement. The construction work that had once seemed like his only future now felt like ancient history. Thompson had proven that unconventional paths could lead to extraordinary destinations. As Thompson prepared his equipment in the visiting clubhouse at Citizens Bank Park, he felt the familiar surge of adrenaline that came before meaningful games. The Braves needed every win they could get, and he intended to contribute however possible. He had no way of knowing that this series would feature one of the most memorable debuts in recent baseball history, or that he would play a central role in creating that memory. The stage was set for an unforgettable collision between a rookie pitcher making his first major league start and a utility player hungry to prove he belonged among baseball's elite. Neither player knew what the next few days would bring, but both were ready to give everything they had in pursuit of their dreams. The first pitch of Mick Abel's major league career left his hand at 94 miles per hour, cutting through the humid Philadelphia air with perfect precision. The crowd of 42,000 fans rose to their feet as the ball snapped into the catcher's mitt for a strike. Abel felt a surge of relief wash over him. He had officially become a major league pitcher. The months of anticipation, the sleepless nights, the constant questions about whether he was ready, all of that melted away in that single moment. Abel's parents sat in the stands behind home plate, his mother clutching his father's arm with nervous excitement. They had driven across the country to witness this moment, staying in a modest hotel downtown and arriving at the ballpark 3 hours before game time. His father kept a scorecard, just as he had done during Mick's Little League games 15 years earlier. Some traditions never changed even when the stakes reached their highest levels. The second batter of the game was Marcus Thompson, the Braves utility player who had spent the week studying Abel's minor league footage. As he stepped into the batter's box, Thompson felt completely relaxed despite the magnitude of the moment. Years of preparation had led to this at-bat, and he was confident in his approach. He had noticed that Abel relied heavily on his fastball early in counts, then used his devastating changeup to get swings and misses. Abel's first pitch to Thompson was a fastball that caught too much of the plate. Thompson was ready for it, turning on the pitch and driving it deep toward the gap in left center field. For a moment, the crowd held its breath as the ball carried toward the warning track, but the left fielder made a spectacular running catch, robbing Thompson of what could have been an extra base hit. Abel exhaled deeply, realizing how close he had come to giving up his first major league hit on just his second batter. The lesson was immediate and valuable. Abel understood that major league hitters were different from anything he had faced in the minors. Their timing was better, their power was greater, and their knowledge of the strike zone was more refined. He couldn't rely on overpowering these hitters. He needed to outthink them as much as outpitch them. As the game progressed, Abel found his rhythm. His changeup began working exactly as it had in the minor leagues, causing Braves hitters to swing over pitches and chase balls out of the strike zone. By the fourth inning, he had struck out 5 batters and allowed just 1 hit. The crowd was fully engaged now, sensing they were witnessing something special from their young pitcher. Thompson came to bat again in the 5th inning with a runner on first base. This time, he had adjusted his approach based on their first encounter. Instead of looking for a specific pitch, he decided to simply react to whatever Abel threw. The at-bat stretched to 7 pitches, with Thompson fouling off several tough offerings before finally grounding out to second base. As he jogged back to the dugout, Thompson found himself impressed by the young pitcher's composure and stuff. The real test came in the 6th inning when Abel faced his first serious jam. A leadoff walk and a hit batter put 2 runners on base with nobody out. The crowd noise reached deafening levels as fans tried to encourage their rookie pitcher through his first major crisis. Abel could feel his heart pounding, but he remembered the advice of his minor league pitching coach: breathe deep, trust your stuff, and attack the strike zone. The next batter hit a sharp ground ball to third base, setting up a potential double play. The Phillies turned it perfectly, erasing the lead runner and getting a force out at second base. Abel still had a runner on first with 2 outs, but the immediate threat had passed. He struck out the next batter with a devastating changeup that buckled the hitter's knees. The crowd erupted, and Abel allowed himself a brief moment of celebration. Through 6 innings, Abel had allowed just 2 hits and 1 walk while striking out 8 batters. His pitch count was reasonable, and the Phillies held a 3-0 lead thanks to some timely hitting from their veteran players. But everyone in the ballpark knew the real story was the kid on the mound who was living out every young player's dream. In the dugout between innings, Abel's teammates offered constant encouragement. Veterans who had been skeptical about his readiness were now believers. His fastball had maintained its velocity, his changeup was unhittable, and most importantly, he was showing the kind of composure that couldn't be taught. This wasn't just a successful debut. It was the beginning of what looked like a promising major league career. The atmosphere in Citizens Bank Park had become electric. Fans who had come to the ballpark simply hoping to see competitive baseball were now witnessing history. Social media was buzzing with highlights of Abel's strikeouts and discussions of where this performance ranked among the greatest debuts in franchise history. The night was far from over, but already it was clear that everyone present would remember exactly where they were during Mick Abel's first major league start. As the 7th inning began, something unexpected started happening in the right field stands of Citizens Bank Park. A group of Phillies fans, wearing vintage Royal Guard military costumes complete with tall black hats and red coats, began leading coordinated chants that echoed throughout the ballpark. What had started as a small group of friends, dressed up for a fun night at the baseball game, was rapidly becoming the center of attention for everyone in attendance, the Royal Guard. Tradition had begun 3 weeks earlier when Jake Morrison, a 28-year-old history teacher from South Philadelphia, decided to wear his Revolutionary War reenactment costume to a Phillies game. Jake had been participating in historical reenactments since college, and he thought it would be amusing to combine his hobby with his love for baseball. His girlfriend had initially been embarrassed by the elaborate costume, but when other fans began taking pictures and asking questions, she realized they might be onto something special. Word of Jake's Royal Guard appearance had spread quickly through social media. Other history enthusiasts and die-hard Phillies fans began joining him at games, each wearing their own version of the colonial military uniform. By the time of Abel's debut, their group had grown to 12 people, and they had developed their own cheers, chants, and traditions that were beginning to catch the attention of local sports reporters. The Royal Guard members positioned themselves strategically throughout the right field section, creating a visual spectacle that was impossible to ignore. Their red coats stood out brilliantly against the green seats, and their synchronized chanting created an almost theatrical atmosphere. They had researched Revolutionary War military commands and adapted them into baseball cheers, shouting things like, "Fix bayonets for strike 3," and "Form ranks for the rally." Television cameras began focusing on the costumed fans during commercial breaks, and the broadcast announcers started mentioning them regularly. The Royal Guard had arrived at the ballpark hoping to support their team, but they were quickly becoming a story unto themselves. Social media posts featuring their costumes and chants were going viral, spreading far beyond Philadelphia's city limits. Jake Morrison had never intended to become the leader of a baseball fan movement, but he embraced the role with enthusiasm. Between innings, he organized elaborate formations where the Guard members would march in formation around their section, drawing cheers and laughter from surrounding fans. Children in nearby seats were mesmerized by the costumes and began asking their parents about the Revolutionary War and Philadelphia's historical significance. The Royal Guard's energy seemed to feed directly into the performance happening on the field. Each time they began a new chant, Abel appeared to pitch with renewed vigor. Whether there was any actual connection was debatable, but the timing felt too perfect to be mere coincidence. The crowd was feeding off their enthusiasm, creating an atmosphere unlike anything most veterans had experienced at Citizens Bank Park. During the 7th inning stretch, the Royal Guard took their performance to another level. Instead of simply standing for "Take me out to the ball game," they performed an elaborate synchronized routine that included military-style salutes, coordinated marching, and a finale where they all pointed their imaginary muskets toward the visiting dugout. The entire ballpark erupted in laughter and applause, with even some Braves players peeking out of their dugout to watch the spectacle. The broadcast crew was having a field day with the story. They conducted brief interviews with several Guard members between innings, learning about their backgrounds and motivations. Jake explained that they saw themselves as representing Philadelphia's revolutionary spirit and bringing that historical pride to modern-day baseball. The interviews were spontaneous and genuine, adding another layer of authenticity to what could have been dismissed as a simple publicity stunt. What made the Royal Guard phenomenon even more remarkable was how organically it had developed. There was no corporate sponsorship, no organized marketing campaign, and no official team endorsement. It was simply a group of passionate fans who had stumbled onto something special and decided to embrace it fully. Their costumes had been purchased from various sources. Some were authentic reenactment pieces. Others were Halloween costumes modified for baseball viewing. As the game entered its later innings, the Royal Guard's influence on the crowd was undeniable. Entire sections were now participating in their chants, and fans throughout the ballpark were taking pictures and videos to share online. The story was spreading beyond Philadelphia in real time, with baseball fans across the country tuning in, specifically to see the costumed fans who had captured everyone's imagination. The phenomenon represented something deeper than just colorful costumes and creative chants. In an era where much of sports entertainment felt manufactured and corporate, the Royal Guard offered something authentic and spontaneous. They were real fans having genuine fun, and their joy was infectious. Combined with Abel's remarkable debut performance, they were creating a night that would be remembered long after the final out was recorded. The 8th inning brought the kind of drama that transforms good baseball games into unforgettable memories. Abel returned to the mound with his pitch count at 97, right at the edge of where most managers begin considering removing a rookie pitcher. The Phillies held a 4-1 lead, but everyone in the ballpark understood that the Braves lineup was capable of mounting a comeback at any moment. The tension was palpable as fans settled back into their seats, the Royal Guard maintaining their enthusiastic chanting despite the mounting pressure. Marcus Thompson stepped into the batter's box for his 3rd at-bat against Abel, representing the potential tying run if the Braves could string together a rally. This confrontation had taken on special significance throughout the game. The veteran utility player against the rookie making his debut. Experience versus raw talent. Proven clutch ability against untested nerves. Thompson had struck out in his previous at-bat, caught off guard by a changeup that seemed to disappear as it approached the plate. Abel's first pitch was a fastball that caught the outside corner for a strike. Thompson nodded appreciatively. The kid wasn't backing down despite the pressure of the moment. The second pitch was another fastball, this one inside and high, evening the count at 1-1 strike. Abel was attacking the strike zone aggressively, trusting his stuff even as fatigue began to creep into his arm. The third pitch of the at-bat changed everything. Abel reached back for a little extra velocity on his fastball, but the pitch caught too much of the plate. Thompson was ready for it, turning on the ball and driving it deep toward the left field wall. The crowd noise became deafening as 42,000 fans watched the ball carry through the humid night air. It cleared the wall by 15 feet, cutting the Phillies' lead to 4-2 and sending Thompson into a triumphant home run trot. As Thompson rounded the bases, he couldn't help but smile at the irony of the situation. All week he had studied Abel's pitches and planned his approach. But in the end, it was pure instinct and timing that had produced the biggest hit of his season. The construction worker turned baseball player had just taken the rookie sensation deep in one of the year's most compelling matchups. Abel stood on the mound, watching the ball disappear over the fence, experiencing his first real taste of major league failure. In the minor leagues, mistakes were often overcome through superior stuff or opponent inexperience. Here, against the best players in the world, every mistake had consequences. He removed his cap and wiped sweat from his forehead, knowing that this moment was as much a part of his development as all the successful innings that had preceded it. The Royal Guard, despite their loyalty to the home team, found themselves appreciating the drama of Thompson's home run. They continued their chants, but with a newfound respect for the opposing player, who had just delivered such a crucial hit. Sports had a way of creating heroes on both sides of any contest, and Thompson had just earned his moment in an already legendary night. Phillies manager Rob Thompson walked slowly toward the mound, giving Abel time to compose himself while also buying time to make a crucial decision. Should he trust his rookie pitcher to work through this adversity, or bring in a veteran reliever to protect the lead? The crowd was on its feet, sensing the pivotal nature of the moment. Thompson's decision would likely determine not only the outcome of the game, but also how Abel's debut would be remembered. After a brief conversation on the mound, Thompson decided to leave Abel in the game. The young pitcher had earned the right to face this challenge, and removing him now might damage his confidence for future appearances. Abel nodded determinedly as his manager patted him on the shoulder and walked back to the dugout. The crowd roared its approval, recognizing the faith being shown in their rookie pitcher. The next batter grounded out to second base, but the following hitter worked a walk, bringing the tying run to the plate. Abel's pitch count had climbed to 108, well beyond what anyone had expected from his debut. His fastball velocity had dropped slightly, but his determination remained unwavering. The Royal Guard intensified their chanting, trying to will their team through this crucial moment. With 2 runners on base and 2 outs, Abel faced the most pressure-packed moment of his young career. The batter was Ronald Acuna Jr., one of the most dangerous hitters in all of baseball. The matchup seemed unfair, a rookie making his debut against a superstar who had terrorized pitchers throughout his career. But baseball had a way of creating these David versus Goliath moments, and everyone in attendance understood they were witnessing something special. Abel took a deep breath, looked in for the sign, and began his windup. The next pitch would define not only the inning, but potentially his entire memory of this magical night. The crowd held its collective breath as the ball left his hand, hurtling toward a date with destiny at 93 miles per hour. The changeup that Mick Abel threw to Ronald Acuna Jr., with 2 outs and 2 runners in scoring position, was the pitch of his life. It started at the letters and dove toward the dirt, causing the superstar outfielder to swing over the top of it by 6 inches. Strike 3. The crowd erupted in pandemonium as Abel pumped his fist and walked off the mound, having navigated through the most pressure-packed situation any rookie could face. The Royal Guard led a stadium-wide celebration that could be heard blocks away from Citizens Bank Park. In the visiting dugout, Marcus Thompson applauded respectfully as Abel disappeared into the Phillies' tunnel. Despite playing for the opposing team, Thompson recognized greatness when he saw it. The kid had just struck out one of baseball's best hitters in the clutch, showing the kind of composure that couldn't be taught. Thompson's home run had been significant, but Abel's response to that adversity had been even more impressive. The ninth inning became a formality, as the Phillies closer retired the Braves in order, securing a 4-2 victory and making Abel the winning pitcher in his major league debut. As the final out was recorded, fans throughout Citizens Bank Park remained on their feet, knowing they had witnessed something extraordinary. The Royal Guard began a spontaneous rendition of "We Are the Champions" that spread throughout the entire ballpark, their red coats visible in the television shots that would be replayed for years to come. Abel's final line was remarkable for any pitcher, let alone a rookie making his debut. 8 innings pitched, 3 hits allowed, 2 runs, 1 walk, and 11 strikeouts. The 11 strikeouts tied a franchise record for most in a debut, matching a mark that had stood for 47 years. More importantly, he had shown the kind of mental toughness that separated good pitchers from great ones, bouncing back from Thompson's home run to strike out the side in the 8th inning. The post-game media scrum was unlike anything Citizens Bank Park had seen in recent memory. Reporters crowded around Abel's locker, peppering him with questions about his emotions, his preparation, and his future expectations. But an equal number of media members had gathered around Jake Morrison and the Royal Guard members, recognizing that their spontaneous fan movement had become as much a part of the story as the rookie pitcher's performance. Jake Morrison found himself giving interviews to national television networks, explaining how a simple decision to wear his reenactment costume to a baseball game had evolved into something much larger. He emphasized that the Royal Guard wasn't about him or any individual member. It was about bringing passion and creativity to the ballpark experience. They had no plans to commercialize their movement or seek official team sponsorship. They simply wanted to continue having fun while supporting their team. The convergence of Abel's debut and the Royal Guard's emergence created a perfect storm of social media activity. Videos of Abel's strikeouts were shared millions of times, but clips of the Royal Guard's synchronized chants weren't far behind. Sports talk shows across the country spent hours discussing both stories, with many hosts expressing nostalgia for the kind of organic fan creativity that seemed increasingly rare in modern sports. Marcus Thompson's home run had been overshadowed by the night's other storylines, but it represented something important for his own career. The clutch hit against a highly touted prospect proved that he belonged on the major league stage. Over the following weeks, Thompson would become a regular in the Braves lineup, eventually helping lead them to a division title. His construction background and unconventional path to baseball stardom made him a favorite among fans who appreciated his blue-collar work ethic. For Abel's parents, watching their son navigate the post-game interviews with poise and maturity was almost as rewarding as the performance itself. They had sacrificed financially to support his baseball dreams throughout his youth, driving to countless tournaments and paying for private coaching when money was tight. Seeing him handle success with such grace validated every difficult decision they had made along the way. The Royal Guard members finally left Citizens Bank Park well after midnight, their costumes slightly rumpled but their spirits soaring. They had arrived at the ballpark as a small group of friends looking for a fun night out, and they were leaving as internet celebrities who had helped create one of baseball's most memorable nights. Jake Morrison exchanged contact information with reporters and began fielding calls from other fan groups around the country who wanted to start similar movements. In the weeks that followed, Abel's debut performance would be dissected and analyzed by baseball experts across the country. His 11 strikeouts would earn him Rookie of the Month honors, and his composure under pressure would become a defining characteristic of his young career. But perhaps more importantly, the night represented something deeper about baseball's ability to create magic when talent, preparation, and opportunity converged perfectly. The Royal Guard continued appearing at Phillies home games throughout the rest of the season, their membership growing organically as more fans embraced their revolutionary spirit. They never quite recaptured the spontaneous magic of that August night, but they didn't need to. They had already created something timeless, a reminder that sports fandom at its best was about passion, creativity, and shared joy rather than corporate sponsorship or manufactured entertainment. Years later, When baseball historians discussed the greatest debut performances in modern history, Mick Abel's name would always be mentioned alongside legends like Fernando Valenzuela and Kerry Wood, but those same historians would also note the unique atmosphere created by a group of costumed fans who proved that sometimes the most memorable nights happen when everything unexpected comes together in perfect harmony. It truly was a night MLB would never forget.